Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm George Jones, chairman of the AFSA Elections Committee, and we are the sponsors of this town hall meeting. The candidates who will speak to you today are to be commended for their willingness to run for office in AFSA, the public employees union that represents and advocates for all Foreign Service personnel. At a time when public employees unions are under fierce attack, it is all the more important that we, the members of AFSA, participate actively in our organization, and especially in the election of new officers. Everyone who was a member in good standing of AFSA as of March the 1st is eligible to vote in this election. Ballots have been mailed and should already have been received by anyone living in the Washington area. They must be returned no later than June 1st. They will be counted on June 2nd. The order in which candidates will speak today is the order in which they appear on the ballot, which was determined by lot. The time allowed will be as follows. Candidates for president, 5 minutes each. Candidates for state vice president, secretary, and treasurer, 3 minutes each. Candidates for state representatives, 2 minutes. Two candidates for retiree representative have also asked to speak, and they will also be given 2 minutes each. Remind active duty personnel that the retiree candidates will not appear on their ballot. They will appear only on the ballot for retired personnel. But the retiree representatives wanted to introduce themselves and give the active duty personnel a chance to look at them as well. Candidates who were unable to be present today were offered the opportunity to have a statement read on his or her behalf by a representative of their choice, and 2 of our candidates will do that. Following all of the candidates' statements, there will be a question and answer period at the very end. I will announce each speaker. Time will be kept by an AFSA staff member seated in front of the podium who will hold up a card at 2 minutes left, at 1 minute left, and at 15 seconds left, and who will stand up when time has expired. I will now introduce the first speaker, who by ballot order is Tex Harris, candidate for president. Tex?
Thank you very much. The future is not what it used to be. I've been a member of AFSA for over 40 years, and I've never seen as many challenges as we face today. I've only got 5 minutes, so I'm going to speak quickly. Continuing threat of shutdown. In this budget cut that we just received this last week, the State Department and USAID lost 25%. We were the biggest losers in that debate. Included in that was a cut this year of $140 million in our overseas compensation pay of expected 8%. But that's not the end. Next year, it will increase by the cost of living, another 2%, and on and on. 20 years of AFSA's work since the early 1990s, when this was first placed into effect, has gone down the drain. This has been the principal attack. This has been the principal focus of AFSA's vice presidents through the decades, and it has all been washed away. Unfortunately, AFSA was not in the fight when it should have been. On my website, www.afsastrong.com, are the details of how AFSA did not respond in a timely way to a threat which was signaled to it by its legislative director, who's since been let go and not replaced. AFSA was not in the battle when this decision was made in the Congress on February the 10th. These cuts that are coming down the line this year and larger cuts that are coming down next year will be passed on by the managements of the foreign affairs agencies to the foreign service folks. Cuts in benefits, cuts in programs, they are coming. AFSA will have a right to negotiate on some of these, and we need absolutely the strongest advocate to represent us. Most of those negotiations are headed by the state vice president. We need someone who is an excellent representative of the Foreign Service to defend us against these onslaught of cuts that are coming. Another major issue is the Iraq commitment, in which the Department of State will provide the protective services and transportation for Iraq as the U.S. military withdraws. That means that there is a $2 billion fee before the Congress to fund the State Department. If that is not passed, the State Department will be asked to cover those costs. They will have to rob Peter to pay Paul. And also, the most sensitive and difficult negotiations that I have witnessed in my many years at AFSA relate to the protection, this protective security of folks at posts, which have been conducted by our state vice president with top secret clearances. These are among the most sensitive discussions that we have had in AFSA. As a matter of fact, one of the vice presidents was so successful in terms of representing in press management that he got a letter from the Undersecretary for Political Affairs which allowed him to be promoted over the threshold. We need the best. We need someone in that job negotiating for you, because people at the post cannot speak up clearly without internal repercussions about inadequacies in their security. Elections are about choice. I recommend and urge you, in an election that is significantly flawed, in which the candidate for vice president does not have a security clearance, has had a difficult career, is not plugged into the Department of State's inner network, and does not significantly have any influence other than those operating level folks that he deals with on grievances and cases, to vote for Elise Mellinger as a bridge candidate, as a write-in. Also, this AFSA election is the worst that I've seen. We have no choice. There are 4 unfilled seats on the AFSA board, which must be filled by write-ins. I hope that they are your write-ins. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Susan Johnson, candidate for president.
Thank you, George, and good afternoon. I'm Susan Johnson. I'm the current president of AFSA, and I'm running for a second term as part of the 21st Century AFSA slate, which includes active duty and retiree members from the current board, as well as new active duty and retiree candidates with fresh perspectives. They are gathered here behind me now. We are an experienced, diverse, innovative, and representative slate dedicated to a strong, diverse, and professional foreign service. I ask for your support and your vote for me and this slate. The current board brought together 2 opposing slates into a united team, and this team got to work together for a strong AFSA. We worked with the QDDR co-chairs on human resource issues. Our feedback on a proposal for a mid-level lateral entry program for state led to it being replaced by alternative proposals. We worked with the Academy of American Diplomacy to develop recommendations for strengthening professional education and training. We ramped up our work on behalf of members through the work of our State Vice President, Daniel Hirsch, and our other agency vice presidents. We've secured implementation of the first 2 tranches of overseas comparability pay, 16% more in your pockets, fought to keep them, and to get the 3rd tranche, working closely with management and our supporters in Congress. We mobilized AFSA members to explain why denying comparability pay for overseas assignments undermines the mission of the Foreign Service. We expanded AFSA media outreach, doubling the number of press releases and placement of letters to the editor. We introduced new programs, including a speaker series with Lockheed Martin, and expanded our nationwide speaker program to over 31,000 throughout the U.S. We modernized and increased our online presence through our new website, Facebook page, and Twitter feed. We continued to build AFSA membership, now close to 16,000, mobilized members to engage with their elected representatives, started a Foreign Service Profiles project to collect first-person Foreign Service stories that illustrate what we do to protect U.S. interests, help U.S. business, promote U.S. exports, and serve American citizens abroad. We reorganized AFSA staff for better teamwork, modernized our communication tools, deepened our bench in the areas of policy, labor management, retiree services, and IT, and budgeted for short-term, issue-specific contract work with experienced Foreign Service retirees and subject matter experts. And we have measurably strengthened and professionalized AFSA operations. We are committed to building on the work and the momentum of the current governing board to build the 21st century Foreign Service our country needs. The serious challenges that the Foreign Service faces today will deepen in the coming 2 years. We will need to be more determined, more creative, and bolder in presenting the case for diplomacy and development as key instruments of national power, and that allocating adequate resources for the Foreign Service is a good investment for the U.S. taxpayer, even against the backdrop of a very tough fiscal environment. We have in AFSA an important tool for the Foreign Service. We need to utilize its full potential as a professional association and as a union. For AFSA to be an effective voice of the Foreign Service and for us to tell our story more convincingly, both to the American public and to Congress, we need your broad and sustained engagement. With this engagement and support, we can build an AFSA that is a powerful advocate for diplomacy, development, and the Foreign Service. Together, we can make AFSA an effective catalyst for reforms that improve conditions within our service. My Foreign Service assignments have been broad and varied, encompassing many facets of our work and giving me firsthand experience with a range of issues. I've served in senior positions in Iraq and Bosnia. I understand war zone staffing and security issues. I entered the service as an econ officer, did consular work in Cuba, multilateral political work at the UN, gained Hill experience as a Pearson Fellow, worked on the 7th floor in P, served as DCM twice, established and directed NGO programs in Central Asia. My track record over the past 2 years as AFSA president is before you to judge. I believe in teamwork that always serves as a force multiplier, and if elected, I will endeavor to forge a strong team. I ask for your vote and your support for me and all 21st century AFSA slate members. Thank you.
Our next scheduled speaker is Susan Shultz, candidate for secretary, who cannot be here, but she has a statement, and that will be read on her behalf by Hugh Neighbor.
Thank you. I'm Hugh Neighbor, running for Retiree Constituency Rep, speaking for Sue Shultz, candidate for AFSA Secretary. Good afternoon, colleagues. It's a pleasure to be here, albeit in virtual form, while TDY in Mexico. I joined the Foreign Service in 1998 after careers in both the private and NGO sectors, yet only recently became an AFSA member. I initially was neutral about AFSA and the benefits and representation it afforded. But this year I went to AFSA to complain about professional development and advancement. It changed my mind. enough so that I not only joined AFSA, but volunteered to serve on the board to impact policy on behalf of all members. Evaluation and ER systems, the bidding cycle, and professional development offerings require tremendous resources, but do not provide the benefits or results they should. Beyond personnel issues, we must tackle other areas which impact our effectiveness and quality of life, among them ensuring that USG priorities and resources are more closely linked. But enough about me. AFSA is about you. The other week, a friend sent a link to a YouTube video based upon David Cook's interpretation of the song Time of Your Life. It struck a chord. It makes one reflect upon our lives and their potential, whether we're, quote, rising out of budget ashes, close quote, or out on the edge forever overseas, close quote. You can find it on YouTube, by the way, David Cook. Anyway, now is the time of our lives, and our careers are a large part of those lives. So why us, the 21st Century Slate, which you can find at www.21stcenturyafsa.com. Yes, we have a proven record in AFSA and in the Foreign Service. We'll continue to ask what you want. We'll continue to listen to what you need. And we'll continue to do it and deliver. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. That concludes the statement by Sue Shultz, candidate for AFSA Secretary. I would like to note also, Mr. Ambassador, that the 21st Century AFSA slate is committed to representing member interest with energy and with focus. I ask you to re-elect AFSA President Susan Johnson, leader of our slate, and to also elect Sue Shultz, and other member of the 21st Century slate. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Andrew Winter, candidate for treasurer.
Good morning. I love the Foreign Service. I love the opportunity to give something back. With my MBA in finance and my strong management skills, I have contributed to the well-being of the Foreign Service through AFSA. I make sure that AFSA's monies are well spent and spent to take care of all of you in the Foreign Service. I assume my fiduciary responsibility for the monies that AFSA has invested for your children through the AFSA Scholarship Fund. Just as I am proud of my record as a Foreign Service officer, ambassador, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Information Management, Executive Director of the African Bureau and the Western Hemisphere Bureau, and Management Officer at 6 posts, I am equally proud of my accomplishments as AFSA's Treasurer. 2 years ago, I stood here and I committed to expanding the labor relations staff, to enhancing our website, and to work to restructure AFSA, all to better serve you. The current AFSA board and I have delivered on all of these promises. For the coming 2 years, AFSA will expand its congressional liaison capacity in order to protect the Foreign Service benefits and pay in this tough budget environment. My commitment to the Foreign Service, to AFSA, to all of you, remains strong. 2 years ago, I stood here and read the statement of Tex Harris, who could not attend. He is a respected friend and colleague of more than 25 years. And I respectfully dissent from his comments today. I was a management officer for 30 years, and I judged my performance and the performance of others by their accomplishments, not by labels. Daniel Hirsch has spent the last 2 years working tirelessly for your benefit. His accomplishments are real, helping to gain and preserve overseas compatibility pay, expanding opportunities for specialists, defending those who have grievances with the department. He succeeded because he is plugged in, and he succeeded because he did not need a security clearance to negotiate and work on your behalf. He has earned your vote. Please vote for him and for our slate. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Daniel Hirsch, candidate for State Vice President.
Good afternoon. In the past 27 years, I've been called a lot of names: GSO, consular officer, management officer, program director, chargé d'affaires, special advisor, AFSA vice president, and now, in this election, shop steward. A person elected by their peers to represent them to management, to protect their rights and advance their interests, to be their voice. And in service to you, I have worked to preserve the portion of the OCP that has already been implemented, to work towards implementation of the remaining tranche, and to lock it in for perpetuity, to improve preparation for IAP assignments, to include helping both employees and their families manage the stress and logistical requirements of separation, to reduce the low-ranking quota of the promotion boards so that you cannot be low-ranked for frivolous reasons, to catalyze a department-wide review of all specialist skill codes in order to increase opportunities for specialists, including conversion opportunities, out-of-cone assignments, and upgrading of positions, to promote safer housing and offices for employees, family members, and children overseas, to level the playing field for employees with disabilities, to expand opportunities for EFMs for both employment and training, to make promotion precepts fairer for specialists, DS agents, and those assigned domestically, to promote policies that would increase training opportunities for all employees of every skill code and make the assignments process more transparent, to better train supervisors at all levels and empower employees to take better control of their own careers. As AFSA Vice President, I have worked with Susan Johnson and other members of our slate to make AFSA more efficient and hire additional staff to serve you better, meeting with Congress to preserve OCP and increase funding to our agencies, working with the media to increase public awareness of the realities of Foreign Service life in the 21st century. I ask you to vote for our slate to preserve the momentum of change and modernization, to make your representative truly more representative of you. My name is Daniel Menko Hirsch, and I work for you. Thank you.
Now we come to the candidates for state representative. The first is David Swak, candidate for state representative.
Good afternoon. My name is Dave Swak. I'm a Foreign Service Specialist, Security Engineering Officer. I've been in the Foreign Service for 24 years and have served in a variety of posts and assignments overseas in New Delhi, Frankfurt, Abu Dhabi, worked in 45 different countries, TDY, including a number of war zones and terrorist regions. I've also served a number of excursion assignments, including that as a science officer in OES, where I received an MSI, and as political officer in PM Bureau, where I actually was promoted to FS2. In the years that I've been with the department, I've noticed a lot of positive things going on. I've worked with AFSA in a number of occasions as a member of the State Standing Committee and representatives to various bureaus, including all the assignments I've worked in since 1997. I've worked on a number of issues, including securing overtime pay for specialists, answering countless questions of both FSOs and specialists on their benefits and concerns over department policy. Currently, I believe I'm the only specialist running for the governing board. I seek to serve as an honest broker to represent both specialists and generalists to make sure that the specialists' needs and concerns are heard. One of the first things I would like to do if elected to the position is afterwards work to get more specialists on the governing board so that there will be a more broad representation of specialists. I'm very grateful to the support AFSA has given me over the years, including working on the specialist tenure certificate, which Dan and his staff helped also in gaining the final approval for the signatures. So I'd like to give back, in addition to having served on the standing committee, to now serve on the governing board, and I will most assuredly do the best I can to represent everyone's interest, both to the benefit of the employees and ensure that they maintain their directives and responsibilities as career members of the Foreign Service. Thank you.
I'd now like to call on Kimberly Krhounek, also a candidate for state representative.
Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Krhounek, and I'm an active duty generalist Foreign Service officer running for a position as a state representative on the 21st Century AFSA candidate slate. I've been in the Foreign Service and a member of AFSA for over 16 years, and I think we can all recognize that the State Department is going through a period of great change as we adapt to the new skill sets needed to meet today's critical needs and adapt to the tough economic environment. I am running for one of the AFSA board positions because I want to be a part of the solutions to many of the issues facing the Foreign Service today, whether promoting overseas comparability pay, advocating for more training for specialists, promoting telework, or simply trying to put a human face on the large bureaucracy that governs many aspects of our lives. AFSA represents us to management, both collectively and individually, thus giving us an opportunity to shape the decisions that in turn shape our lives and our work environments. It's our strongest advocate with Congress and our best face to the world that does not always see the full spectrum of what we do. Specifically, I'm running for the 21st Century slate because I met with AFSA President Susan Johnson, and I was really impressed by the team of dedicated individuals that she has pulled together to represent active duty, retirees, families, singles, and the full diversity of the Foreign Service. I'm currently serving in Washington, and I have both the time and the desire to devote to addressing the issues that matter the most to our constituents around the world. We want to hear from you, and we encourage you to visit our website at www.21stcenturyafsa.com. We're ready to work with you and work for you, and I hope you will support the full 21st Century slate, including President Susan Johnson, Vice President Daniel Hirsch, our newly retired retirees Hugh Neighbor and Mary Ellen Gilroy, and the full spectrum of representatives for the foreign affairs agencies on our slate. Thank you very much.
Next on our schedule is Kenneth Caro-Mintz, candidate for state representative, who cannot be here today, but his statement will be read by Meg Gilroy, who I should note is also a candidate for the governing board on behalf of the retiree constituency.
Thank you. My name is Kenneth Caro-Mintz, and I'm running for the AFSA board on the 21st Century slate. I joined the Foreign Service 11 years ago and immediately joined AFSA. I've twice served as the AFSA Post Rep and was very proud of winning AFSA's Post Rep of the Year award in 2009. I believe AFSA is a vital part of the State Department family, but I believe it can be even stronger. There are 3 areas where I believe my background and experience can help move us forward. First, more needs to be done to keep in touch with our posts, to find out what their challenges are and how AFSA can help. Post reps still feel like they're alone in the wilderness, and I want to help streamline their roles. Second, we need to redouble our efforts to communicate with Capitol Hill. While we've made great strides in recent years on things like overseas comparability pay, new budgetary pressures put these gains at risk. Having worked 5 years on the Hill, I'd like to lend a hand in strategizing our outreach efforts, and I believe my experiences can help. Finally, I've been a member of GLIFA, Gay and Lesbians in Foreign Affairs Agencies, for as long as I've been a member of AFSA. The GLBT community at State has made enormous progress under the leadership of Secretary Clinton and others. The
The FS life is never easy, but GLBT officers have a few extra burdens, including a lack of health insurance benefits. But others face special circumstances too, including single parents, families with health concerns, specialists hoping to expand career options, individuals preparing for retirement, and others. The Foreign Service is diverse, and I remain committed to helping ensure the Department responds in a way that is welcoming to all. Anyone who knows me knows that I am willing to speak my mind, defend what I believe is right, and work hard for individuals who come to me for assistance. AFSA is your ally and advocate in Washington, and I promise to bring my energy and enthusiasm to the organization to serve you better. The 21st Century Slate is ready to work with you, for you, and I hope you will support us when you vote this year. Thank you.
I would now call on Les Hickman, candidate for State Representative.
Two years ago, AFSA members gave me the honor of serving you on the AFSA board as one of your state representatives. While on the board, I was very much impressed with how it worked, and the membership made it clear to me that they wanted a foreign service that was more effective. I knew my commitment to this process would call for more time and hard work. That's why I've joined Susan Johnson, your candidate for president, Daniel Hirsch, your state vice presidential candidate, and the other members of the 21st Century AFSA slate. Susan's experience in the private sector and in the Foreign Service has contributed to her proactive leadership and management style. Daniel knows the department, its people, and the rules. I have served in a war zone. I had suffered life-threatening illness while serving overseas. And all of us had to leave loved ones for extended periods of time to serve our country. We make these sacrifices because we serve a great nation. And while you continue to make these sacrifices, you deserve an AFSA board that will not accept canned language from a dusty briefing book that no longer reflects the realities of today's foreign service. We are prepared to work with management to get a better issue of personnel policy development. We understand the significance of quality of life issues at home and abroad. And most important, we will work with you and listen to you for your needs. Please support me and the other 21st Century AFSA candidates. Thank you very much.
And our next speaker is Matthew Asada, candidate for State Representative.
My name is Matthew Asada. I'm an active duty political officer from Michigan and a candidate for one of the state representative positions. I joined AFSA the day I joined the Foreign Service because I believed then, as I do today, that it is essential to have an effective association and professional union that can articulate the concerns and ideas of its entire membership. I believe that, like America, one of the Foreign Service's greatest strengths is its diversity of opinion, background, and experience. To maintain our nation's competitiveness, military strength, and diplomatic prowess, we must continue to recruit, train, and retain the nation's best, wherever they may come from, whoever they may be. I am running to ensure that AFSA draws on the strength and diversity of its membership, generalists and specialists, couples, singles, and tandems, and veterans of our hardship, danger, and accompanied posts alike. I bring with me my personal background as a fourth-generation Japanese-American, third-generation public servant, and professional experiences in Germany, India, and unaccompanied assignments in Afghanistan and Pakistan. I have served in 4 of the 5 cones alongside U.S. and allied military forces and with colleagues from all of the foreign affairs agencies. In each one of these assignments, I have tried to make the organization more professional and efficient than when I started, and I want to continue that work with AFSA to modernize it for the 21st century, to increase the utilization of information technology, to expand internal and external communications, make more effective use of financial resources for the significantly increased membership base, and more focused policy engagement on benefits and quality of life with the Department and the Hill. With your support and that of my 21st century colleagues, I look forward to faithfully representing you, collaboratively working with management, and purposefully moving forward with AFSA together. Thank you.
We now come to the two candidates who are here today for the governing board on behalf of the retiree constituency. The first is Hugh Neighbor, candidate for retiree representative. Oh, he's not going to speak again. All right, fine. Then our last speaker is Harry Blaney, candidate for retiree representative.
I'm Harry Blaney, and I'm running as a representative to be part of the retiree group in the AFSA board. But I'm really running because I think that we have not done enough, not nearly enough, to face what is coming at us in the very near future, as well as what we have just experienced. As Tex Harris has said, we have been cut, and I must tell you, as a person who worked for 10 years of my life serving as a volunteer for AFSA, as president of something called the Coalition for American Leadership Abroad, on the Hill and working to try to stop, in what was the past, cuts and attacks on the government. I saw Tex Harris out there when Newt Gingrich wanted to close down governments outside this building, fighting to stop that and to support our budget and the people and the Foreign Service. I agree with Tex Harris that we have not done enough, and I'm serving and supporting him and the AFSA Strong group, and I recommend strongly that you vote for Tex Harris to go beyond what we have done so far, to meet what has got to be the worst of circumstances that I have seen in my entire 40 years of being of serving in AFSA. I suggest you also vote a write-in candidate because we need a better and finer representative and a more active person in Ellie Mellinger, which I believe will bring also strength and support Tex and others from the Foreign Service. I do believe, above all, that in the end, after this election, we all need to come together because we are facing what has got to be a struggle when the 2011 budget comes up and also when the budget and debt ratio takes place. I thank you for your support, and let's hope that we have a strong AFSA and a strong Foreign Service. Thank you.
I would like to thank all of our speakers today for taking the time to participate in this town hall and for keeping more or less to the admittedly draconian time limits that we imposed. We now come to the Q&A opportunity. In the interest of permitting as many questions as possible, questions will be limited to 1 minute and answers also limited to 1 minute. Our timekeeper will continue to keep time. In the absence of questions from the audience, candidates may ask questions of other candidates with the same time limits. Questioners, whether they're from the audience or from the stage, are asked to use one of the 2 microphones in the aisles, and they will be recognized by the chair. Everyone is reminded to use the microphones. Questions or answers that cannot be heard will not appear in the video that will be circulated to members overseas and run on the BNet. Members of the audience should please state their names at the beginning of their question and state to whom their question is directed. May I have the first question, please?
Yes, my name is Stephen Keat. I'm the Foreign Service Representative on the Disability Action Group Council. The question is directed to the two candidates for president. However, I would also welcome any response from the other candidates. DAG is interested in learning your positions on disability-related issues. Please inform us about your past actions related to persons with disabilities who work for state and what actions, positions you would propose implementing if you were elected. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Harris, Ms. Johnson will each have 1 minute to reply.
The issue is balance. The Foreign Service is built on a critical principle of worldwide availability. The Foreign Service, therefore, is not the best vehicle for innovative policies involving the disabled, but we should not, in the Foreign Service, fall behind governmental standards that apply throughout the United States government. We should be an equal opportunity employer and provide support for the disabled, keeping in mind that their working circumstances are difficult to deal with in circumstances in which sight, for example, is a critical factor on a consular line or other things. We have to keep in mind the unique working conditions in which we in the Foreign Service deal with, in fairness to all our members.
Thank you, Stephen, for the question. I personally and this board and State VP Daniel Hirsch have been committed to finding the best ways available to level the playing field for disabled in the Foreign Service in terms of assignments and their prospects and chances to get assignments that help make them more promotable. We're also looking at things like accessibility of embassies, residences, and all the other issues that are reflected in the norms and standards in our country here today, and how we can relate those to the conditions overseas. As you may know, we are currently working closely with HR and with the DAG to shape department policy in innovative and creative ways. We think those ways are there and available to us. It's a matter of will, and we are committed to looking for those ways together with you and HR. Thank you.
Are there other questions? Would any of the candidates like to ask questions of each other? All right, Tex, you have 1 minute.
Question for Daniel Hirsch. Daniel, when you accompany the President for meetings with the Secretary of State, with meetings with the undersecretaries, do you realize that in the briefing memos or in the whisper that is whispered in the ear of the principal, they are informed that the meeting must be held at the unclassified level? What is the impact that that has on the perception of AFSA and the ability of that conversation at the highest levels in this building to facilitate and best represent the men and women of the service? Thank you.
Tex says often you are ill-informed and haven't checked the facts. When I meet with people that I have known for 2 decades or more, including both Deputy Assistant Secretaries in HR and heads of many other bureaus, as I said, they know me for 2 decades, and and there is no ill will between us. As you are also aware, all AFSA activities are unclassified, pretty much by definition. It's written into the description of what AFSA does. And that would also include going to the Hill. Many times I have gone to the Hill with Susan, and not once has anybody asked about my security clearance. All AFSA issues are unclassified by definition, and you might do well to check into that. Thank you.
All right, we have a question here in the right aisle.
Good afternoon. My name is Carol Lee Heileman, and I am a re-employed annuitant, WAE employee here at the Department of State. And I believe that there could be greater transparency and greater efficiency in the hiring of retirees, and in order to retain a certain amount of their experience. And I was wondering if the presidential candidates for AFSA could address proposals to deal with, for example, creation of a WAE register and possibly a AFSA contract firm to handle hiring of WAE employees. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. The screwed up WAE system in the Department of State has been a major focus of AFSA retirees and the AFSA board. It is unfair. It does not work. There is a list in the drawer of all the regional directors of their pals and people that they know, which they use to hire WAEs. With the incoming budget cuts, the Department of State and USAID is not going to be able to do the hires that they need. They will depend more on WAEs. AFSA is fighting and will continue to fight, if I am the president, for an opening and a fair system to employ WAEs who are knowledgeable, experienced, and mentors back in the service. Thanks for the question.
As Tex, who's a member of the current board, has said, this has been one of our main priorities, and the retiree representatives on the current board have made this their #1 priority, led by retiree VP Bob Hodek. We have both written repeatedly and met repeatedly with senior department officials on this issue, including raising it with the Secretary of State. Recently, we feel some small progress has been made in agreement to set up a centralized database or registry for retirees and WAE candidates. But we are far from satisfied with the transparency of the process, and more importantly, with the issue of raising the caps and drawing on our retirees to fill the gaps, the staffing gaps we have. I am completely committed to furthering this if I'm elected to another term, and I believe that we have decided that we may need to introduce legislative proposals, having exhausted other means with the department. But it's something that I completely believe in and support, and I expect us to see realized. Thank you.
Question over here.
Yes, my name is Kate Yemelyanov, and I'm an AFSA member, former Foreign Service, now Civil Service. My question is for the President, currently Susan Johnson, and also for the candidate for President, Tex Harris. Susan, I want to go back to Tex's question earlier. What has been the impact in the past of Daniel's lack of a security clearance in his negotiations or representation of the department to department leadership? And then I guess I would ask Tex Harris, how do you plan to deal with the issue of not having a clearance yourself as state, if you're elected as president for AFSA?
Susan?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I can say that in the 2 years that I have served as president with Daniel as vice president, there has been not a single instance in which the security issue has come up, nor has anyone ever raised it with me at any level, nor has any discussion that we've had dealt with that. This is a new world. It's a new foreign service. It's new issues. We're in a post-WikiLeaks era, and there have not been any such issues so far during this term. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm going to talk fast because there's a lot of information. When I was president, we had major issues that were at the top secret level. And in the past, we've had major issues, particularly over air defense protections in Baghdad, an issue which is on the table today. We are transferring from DOD to state protection for the Green Zone and other PRTs in Iraq. That is an issue which will raise deep concerns among the AFSA members at post. Not this board, but the last board held a series of highly classified, sensitive briefings with the top management and DS officials in the State Department regarding security, because the people at post felt constrained that they could not go up and say, we are living in unsafe housing, which has tin roofs, a lot of sandbags around the side, but has tin roofs, and that is unacceptable. The programs and plans to protect our members are generally dealt with at the secret or above level. Thank you.
That answered my question. How do you plan to deal with that if you are elected as president? You do not currently hold a clearance, correct?
If I may. Sorry, I was so focused on the other one. That's easy. I've worked since retirement. I've worked twice before in the Department of State, and when I have needed a clearance, I have gotten a clearance. So I have had top secret clearances on 2 occasions when I needed. When elected, I will ask the department for a clearance and expect to get one. It's easy.
Susan, would you like to say anything further? Or? No. All right. Are there, yes, Harry.
Since I believe that the most important issue that we're going to be facing in the next 2 years and perhaps beyond is going to be the evisceration of the Department of State, USAID, and the other foreign affairs agencies by cuts and by limitations that are already being proposed on the Hill, and particularly in the House of Representatives. I would like to ask any and all of my fellow representatives, candidates here, how beyond what has been said, because what has been said is very nice, but we have not likely, I repeat, we are not likely to stop the locomotive that is going now with the same things that we have been doing. It is not enough to have Twitter. We need something more. And I would like to ask for each of the candidates who wish to speak and answer the question, what more and what kind of resources are you willing to commit as members of potential or members of the board to make this a full court press for AFSA and this state?
Thank you. I would like to address that question. First of all, I believe that the problems we're facing today were a long time in the making. There's no doubt there's huge challenges. I believe we can meet them, but meet them together, working as a team with all the diversity and mobilizing our membership, not relying on either just the president or just the vice president for this agency or that agency. That is what I've endeavored to do with this board. That's what I commit to do if elected in the next board. We have already started to think of new ways to address the problem you've raised, Harry. We have reached out to our membership to engage with their elected representatives and with the American public. That has generated over 400 letters to scores and hundreds of congressmen and senators. But that's not enough. We need to introduce ourselves up front, up close and personal, explain what we do. And that, I think, is something we need to do all together. And I'm committed to doing that and to mobilizing the Foreign Service across all agencies to work on that effort. Thank you.
Tex, could I pause you for a moment? The question was addressed to all of the other candidates, and I wonder if any of those who have not spoken at all today, have not answered any questions today, would like to comment on this question. All right, since I'm not getting any response, Tex will give you your shot.
Is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? Today, the Congress is signing a bill that's going to take $8.9 billion out of state and aid. That is a major hit. AFSA today has 3 people in its accounting department, but it does not have a director for legislative affairs. It fired its legislative affairs director some months ago after she issued a report saying that the 8% increase for this year was totally lost, and there was a significant chance of the 16% at risk. After that report came out, the next day I received the AFSA agenda, which had no mention of the OCP on it. Look on my website. Daniel Hirsch at that meeting told the board not to support an aggressive urgent action plan because he had received a number of emails from Foreign Service folks who were not supportive of AFSA lobbying for the additional 8% and also did not want the AFSA to get ahead of the Department of State. It's in the record. Check it. Thank you.
Yes, please. Andrew Winter.
I would just like to take a minute to indicate that Tex, as some would say, as usual, has his facts wrong. We do have a legislative liaison. What AFSA did was terminate an employee at the mid-level who just wasn't up to the job. And we hired a senior retiree from the Foreign Service with significant H experience to take over that job. In order to indicate the importance of that job and to pay more, we retitled that job as Policy Director. AFSA is totally and completely committed to our legislative agenda. AFSA is in the process now, right now, of evaluating our ability to hire yet another person to work on legislative affairs. Thank you.
Question over here.
Are we allowed to ask a second question, since everyone else is shy? All right. Again, Stephen Keat, Disability Action Group. Members of the service with disabilities frequently encounter discrimination in the assignments process and have had problems getting Med and HR to agree on overseas postings. As a remedy, DAG had proposed to management that any member of the Foreign Service who has a Class 2 or Class 5 medical clearance and who has not been posted overseas within the last 5 years be given a 5-year extension of their time in class and time in service as a reasonable accommodation for past policies which disadvantage persons with disabilities in the promotions and assignment processes. DAG also proposed that previous remedial actions taken in response to suits against the department should be examined as possible templates for similar remedies for persons with disabilities. I'd be grateful if the 2 candidates for president would address this, indicating whether or not you could support this. I would also welcome any other members, any other candidates indicating if you could support this.
Susan, would you like to go first?
Thanks again for the question. Yes, in principle, we are working for a solution that involves HR, DAG, and AFSA together to find the best solution. But in general, I think I am supportive of the kinds of things that you are looking for and a creative effort to find the right remedy that you, as representing disabled in the Foreign Service, find workable, that HR and the department find to be workable. And AFSA hopes to play a role to facilitate, mediate, stimulate that dialogue to come up with the best solutions. But I think we are deeply involved in that, and I'd like to ask Daniel Hirsch to address it a little, because this is something that he has given a lot of attention to and a great deal of thought. Daniel?
Well, 2 initiatives that we've already accomplished that deal somewhat with some of the issues you raised are, number 1, there is a new policy in Med that we participated in developing, that if you have a Class 2 clearance and it is a manageable condition, it can be considered as a Class 1 clearance. So that gives a lot of people with Class 2 clearances the opportunity to become worldwide available. We've also convinced MED to look at cases on a strictly individual basis rather than on a formulaic basis. We revised the promotion precepts last year, and they'll stay that way this year, to give greater consideration to people who are in domestic assignments and reduce or eliminate bias against people who are forced to remain in domestic due to any condition whatsoever.
Thanks.
The issue is micro versus macro. I'm not going to get in the weeds on the disability and med issue, but what I do want to talk about is AFSA's priority. The new policy director has been installed to do a third of the job that the state vice president is not able to do. The state vice president job has been tailored down to be a job dealing with grievances and case work such as this. And I'm glad he's on the job and helping you guys get correct treatment for folks with disabilities. But in the past, the state vice president has not just been a shop steward, he has been the advocate on the Hill. Susan described Daniel as someone who participates and comes along to her meetings on the Hill. The last state vice president did 30 or 40 public affairs things and was constantly on the Hill lobbying. We need that now.
Okay. Any other questions from the candidates? And I do not see any coming from the floor. So I think we can call this meeting to a successful conclusion. Again, thanks to all the candidates who participated. Thanks to you who came to hear them speak. And we look forward to a successful election ending in June, on June 1st. Thank you very much.